Hi there, welcome back to TDCatTech. A couple of weeks ago I was looking at this product. I did an unboxing and first impressions and kind of demo of this product. It's the BenQ ScreenBar E-Reading Lamp. So 2 weeks have gone by. I've had a chance to use it, I've had a chance to test it. I just want to give you my thoughts now and the good and bad, I guess, of this product. So let's get started. I want to keep this fairly concise. I've written notes, so hopefully I'll try and keep on point as much as I can. Let's start with the pros. It's a really nicely made product, this. It's fully finished in anodized aluminium and feels nice to the touch. You get it out of the box, it's a good unboxing experience. You know, everything's nicely packaged, nicely presented. Some stuff you receive these days just feels horrible. It's plastic, it's cheap, it's really poorly packaged. The instructions, you can't understand half of them. And this, not at all, BenQ. It's from a reputable manufacturer and it's a really nicely made product. It's very stylish. I mean, that doesn't necessarily matter to everybody, but it's nice, you know, and so it's nicely, it looks good on your desktop and on top of your monitor, which is good because, you know, you could think having something on top of your monitor in that way could be quite intrusive, but it's not at all. It saves a lot of space. If you, like me, have a very limited space to work in, being able to get a light away from your desk entirely is fantastic, and that alone could make it a selling point for somebody. I just want to mention that I guess some people could question whether or not a webcam, if you're using a desktop and it has a webcam on top that's not built into the monitor, if you've got an iMac or something like that, it'll be built in. But if you've got a desktop and it has a webcam sat on top, I just want to say that there will probably be a way of getting your webcam to sit on top of the mount for the monitor. I certainly have. I use a Logitech webcam on my desktop. To be honest, I don't really use it that much anymore. But it's on there, and I had no problem at all getting it to kind of sit nicely on top. So the two kind of sit together. It looks quite good, actually. It's a low power device, so 5 watts maximum at maximum brightness, which, again, not a concern for everybody, because when you're comparing to a monitor and a computer, it is only a very tiny amount, but that's a good thing. You know, it's at 5 watts max. It's not going to use much electricity. So this is probably the most important one. It works. I mean, it actually works really well. The light distribution is, well, it's bright enough, it's dim enough, you know, the light distribution is very, very even. Some people, I think, have posted online and said they expected, because it's made up of individual LEDs, that you'd sort of see some artifacts of that in the actual, the light that it throws onto your desk. And you don't at all. It's a really nicely distributed light. The LEDs have no flicker. Unlike a lot of LEDs, LED lamps, you can almost sense the flicker from them, and if you sort of wave something in front of them, you can see the sort of strobing effect. So no flicker on these LEDs at all. They claim that this product reduces eye strain. Well, I have to say, I agree with it. Maybe not for the reason that they state. I think they're sort of going down the angle of, if you can reduce the amount of glare on your screen, that's going to reduce your eye strain. What I find is that because my monitor's set to a fairly high brightness level, I think it's my monitor set to 100, 180 or 200, and because of that, when you have a dim desktop, or if your desktop isn't properly lit, when you look down, which I do because I'm not a touch typist, you know, and I am looking at things on my desk, when you look down, your eyes adjust to the level of light that's down here, and then you look back up again, and boom, you know, it's suddenly really bright again on the screen. Having a well-lit desktop in the same color as the screen reduces the strain on my eyes, because as I look between the two, there is no change required. The two just sort of balance each other out, and the light does as it says regarding glare. There's no glare going onto your screen, or very little glare. I'll get back to that in a moment. But yeah, it's definitely improved. Well, it's hard to say because I didn't really suffer, or didn't feel like I suffered from eye strain. But what you have to do is use it, get used to it, leave it for work with it for an hour, and then turn it off. And I think you'll be quite surprised at what a difference it makes. All of a sudden you're like, oh my God, I can't see anything. Oh, this is horrible. You know, I mean, you're looking down and it's all muddy because you can't see properly. And you look up and the screen's incredibly bright all of a sudden. So it eliminates that pretty much entirely. So really good in that respect. Yeah, I mentioned, so there isn't much glare. There is some glare, and I'll go back onto that when I look at the cons, but it pretty much does as they say, which is cast the light downwards and not onto the screen at all. The touch controls on the top are ideal because it's mounted in the center. If you had to physically press something, you'd either have to grab hold of the bottom of the light and press it down, or it's kind of going to rock or potentially fall off. So the touch controls, and they are very, very sensitive, they do only require a tiny touch, are perfect for this type of product. You know, I would almost go so far as to say essential to use it in the way that it's mounted. And finally, yeah, it's USB powered. So it's simple to power. You can plug it into any USB charger. You can plug it into any USB port and it will work. So not only does that mean that it's convenient to power from your computer, you know, from your desktop, you could just take the light away and power it from a USB power bank and use it as a light elsewhere, as a sort of tall fluorescent tube or something. I mean, that would work fine. You could use it in a tent or something if you wanted to. The USB power side of it is excellent, and I wish more things were USB powered. We could have just like a USB powered lawnmower or something. That would be fantastic. All right, cons wise, what's the bad side of it? Well, I just thought of an extra one as I was talking about stuff there. The power cable maybe isn't as long as people might like it. For me, I can go straight down to the floor where I have my dedicated USB power supply, old iPhone charger actually, on the floor, and that's fine. And if I want to take it to a port on my computer, it can reach. But I wish it was a little bit longer, because I can think that some people, given a different setup, or if they need to take their cable from the top of the monitor, because remember, it's at the top of a monitor, which I'm kind of 188 centimeters tall, so 6'2". My monitor is quite high up, so it has to reach all that way down to the floor if you're going to have it on, if your plugs are on the floor, or on the, you know. In short, you get what I'm saying, don't you? It just needs a longer power cable because certain situations might need it. All right, so some glare does hit the very top of the screen. You've got a bright light right next to the top of the screen. Of course, there's going to be some spill onto the top. And if you have your monitor off, or you have nothing but black showing on the screen, you can see it. And I imagine mine's a matte finish on my screen. I can imagine that if you have a shiny screen, you might notice it a little bit more. And equally, if you have a screen with a really narrow bezel at the top, you may notice it a little bit. But it is minimal, and I was kind of looking for it, I suppose. I was just sort of really curious to know whether or not they had achieved what they said they achieved. And if you don't look for it, I honestly don't think you'd notice it. You sort of just get used to it, and you don't notice it half the time anyway. It isn't a big major downside to the product or anything, but it is there, and it's worth mentioning. I also noticed that because there's so much light being cast directly downwards, that my hands, when I was kind of typing, actually show up on the screen because they're being lit so brightly, and with my skin tone, they cause the glare on the screen, which again, once I'd kind of noticed it and, you know, stopped thinking about it, I then didn't notice it at all, if that makes sense. But to start with, I was like looking for things and noticed that my hands were being lit so brightly, then that caused glare on the screen rather than anything else, which is a bit weird. Okay, so as far as the controls, I would like to see some degree. The controls, they do enough. You know, you can turn it on and off, and you can set the auto brightness. That's simple. But as far as the temperature and the brightness are concerned, you tap them, and you never know when you're at full brightness. And because you're just tapping through and pressing and holding to go through, there is no way of saying, right, that's the maximum point. Now I'm going to start going dimmer again. Instead, it just cycles round. And I just wish there was some visible way of seeing that that's the maximum point. Even if it's just a tiny little LED, because there are other LEDs built into the front of the device. Even if it was just another little LED that when you pressed and you kept tapping or kept holding, when it hit max, it just stopped and the LED lit, and then you could carry on. So you know which is the maximum point, because you always go past and starts going dimmer again. Same with the temperature control. You get to the warmest and then it starts going cooler again. You just can't see enough with those with the two little controls that you're just tapping or holding. I just want some visual representation of either the maximum point or the midway point, you know, something like that, or just a little LED display with a number on there would be fantastic. That'd look really nice. Little OLED display built into the side with just very dimly lit, of course, because you wouldn't want that to be distracting. Just with kind of a brightness level and maybe a temperature level on or something like that. That'd be a lovely addition to the product, but would add cost to it. And speaking of cost, it is pretty expensive. It's just a desk light, and this is probably about 80 or 90 pounds in the UK. Not that cheap really for a desk lamp. In my case, I had a bit of a problem because I've got a glass desk. I don't think that many people have a glass desk. But if you do have a glass desk, you might want to think twice about this product. Really, because the lights are bright, and unless you've got stuff on your desk, when you look down, all you can see are those lights bouncing straight back at you. They are right in your face on the glass. And not only that, it also highlights every single smear and mark on the glass. I mean, the glass has to be immaculate for it to look like perfect. And the second you place your hands on glass, of course, it gets kind of, you know, grease from your skin and things like that. You can't avoid having that on your skin. So it doesn't work brilliantly with a glass desk. But you know, if you had a desk lamp angled down, you'd probably suffer the same thing with a glass desk. I'm not quite sure how you get around it, but with this big strip of LEDs, it does look quite kind of like, whoa, in your face. Fortunately, I found a position where my keyboard is, which means that it doesn't reflect back, and it's working fine. So I've got over it, and I've found a way around it, but it is something that I had to work around. And really, the final one, I don't see this as particularly bad, but some might. It doesn't come with a power supply, so it assumes that because it's USB power, everybody can power it, you know, by plugging it into their computer or plugging it into an old phone charger or something. But it makes that assumption. So if you are expecting a power supply with this, you don't get one. You don't get a USB power supply, and that could be seen as a negative to some people. Right then, so that's about it really. In summary, if you're short on some space and you are in the market for a light, this really is an excellent choice. It is a bit expensive, but as far as I see it, it works wonderfully well. You get what you pay for, really, and it lights the area beautifully. It's bright. It does reduce eye strain, or it does for me. And honestly, I really don't think you're going to be disappointed if you shell out your kind of 80 or 90 pound for this light. It's a great product. And the only thing I would say is do be wary, maybe try it out if you can, if you have a glass desk, see whether it can work for you. But there you go, my thoughts on the BenQ ScreenBar. Again, thanks to the guys from BenQ for sending that to me. Hope you found that useful, and I will speak to you soon.